replicate this thing with an average team?
Why can't he replicate it with an average team? We can see that even those average teams are copying his philosophy of football.
Do you know that there is a campaign in Germany then that Guardiola ruined their football?
Even the likes of Xavi and Iniesta,
He developed them.
not that he developed them. They had been there since 2002, since time Van Gaal was there. But he made them to see the game in another dimension.
I call tiki-taka playing middleman, pass me, I pass you, pass me, I pass you.
No,
That's what I
it
call
is
tiki-taka.
creativity, because you are creating something out of nothing. You are creating space where there is no space. So that, of course, is playing with freedom, playing with genius.
The squad that Pep Guardiola took over in 2013, right, had just won the Champions League. Had just won the Bundesliga. That squad had Arjen Robben, Frank Ribery, at the peak of their career.
He doesn't just sign players. He signs players for the vision and the position that he wants them to play, and the style of play and the philosophy which he sees that they can match.
This is what I'm telling you, that do you think Pep Guardiola, with that little or nothing resources, will be successful? Hello and welcome to Honourable Football Diaries, the football podcast where banter meets bold take and no position is offside. Whether you are pro tiki-taka or you are for the counter-attack, whether you support the English Premier League or you are from the laliga or you are from the Ligue 1 or you are from the Bundesliga, we've got you covered. My name is Honourable Template and I am your host for this podcast. Today, we will be talking about one of the greatest coaches of all time. In fact, some believe he is the greatest coach of all time. They rate him far above the like of Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, Marcelo Lippi's of this world. I'm talking about a man who began his coaching career with FC Barcelona B side. Subsequently, he moved to FC Barcelona before moving to Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. He currently coaches Manchester City in England. I'm talking about no other person than Joseph Pep Guardiola. Is Pep Guardiola overrated? Because he has only been successful with big budget teams. Discussing alongside me is a football analyst, a football poet, a writer, the analyst. Welcome to Honourable Football Diaries.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to talk about the biggest sports in the world, which is football. And of course, to talk about, to me, the greatest manager in the world. That is Pep Guardiola.
So what do you think about, is he overrated? We are not talking about whether he's the best coach or not. That's not up for debate. What we are saying is, do you think he's overrated because he has only worked with highly spending teams?
Of course not. He's not overrated.
Okay,
He's
let's
well
have your
rated.
view. Okay, why do you say so? Let's have your.
There are many reasons why I can say so. Many people accuse Guardiola of spending. But if we look at it, other clubs spend very big as well. Mourinho spent big when he was at Chelsea. Well, not bigger. It's not necessarily bigger, but almost at the same level with Pep Guardiola.
Okay, since you brought in Jose Mourinho, let me ask you a question. Do you think Pep Guardiola, in his widest dream,
Yes.
do you think Pep Guardiola can win a Champions League with FC Porto, with Inter Milan, with the same amount of resources?
Yes, he can.
Okay.
There are many.
What
His
makes you
track
say
record says so.
Okay,
From
what's
the
his
Barcelona B team,
Okay.
he developed many players.
Like?
There was a particular.
You said many.
He developed
You said many. Can you
a
name
number
five?
of players.
Can you
At
name
least
five?
one player I can talk about is
No, you
Sergio
said
Busquets.
many.
Well, Sergio Busquets, even the likes of Xavi and Iniesta.
He developed them.
Not that he developed them. They had been there since 2002, since time Van Gaal was there. But he made them to see the game in another dimension. That is the biggest thing about Pep Guardiola. If you even look at Gundogan, who came from Dortmund into Manchester City. He came in to Man City at the age of 28 and he admitted in an interview that Guardiola opened his eyes to football. We can see that when it comes to the vision of football, Guardiola is a master at vision of football. And that is why many people in the world, not just in England, are copying his philosophy, his tactics, his style of play.
Do you know that even this copying, so-called copying,
Yes.
I belong to the school of thought that believes Guardiola is ruining the game.
He's not winning the game.
Hold on. Because if you look at, you're making your point now. I have not made mine.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interject you. But if you look at the likes of Ronaldinho, if you look at the likes of Zinedine Zidane, I'm not sure, apart from the PSG side, I'm not sure I've seen any player like the likes of this Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldinho in the last 10 years. Because footballers are now being restricted to holding possession, a particular way of playing. You know, they are not playing with, they are not, I don't know how to put it.
Playing with freedom.
Exactly.
But I don't think so.
Okay.
If you look at, you can say, oh, players are being restricted to football. But we can see that at the starting of his career, at the Barcelona main team in 2008, he had a genius in Lionel Messi.
Do you know that
he did not restrict him?
That genius?
He did not restrict him
That
in
one
any way.
that one is
and
exceptional.
we can see that
You can't restrict Lionel Messi.
Yes, if he was another manager, he would have probably restricted him. If it was another manager, he wouldn't give him the first 9 role that he played. In 2010, 11 season, when he started the first 9 role, and by that time, people like Eto'o had left for Inter Milan rather. Yeah. So we can see that out of his genius, even now developed new roles for football players. And we can even look at, if people say, oh, he's restricting players, we can look at a player like John Stones. He developed John Stones from a centre back into a midfielder. Okay, we can see that he's not restricting players. Look at Philippe Lam, for example.
By saying restrict,
yes,
we are not saying restriction. By restricting player, there's a difference between converting a player to a certain position. That's completely different from restriction. Yes. By restriction, I'm saying the style of play, the mode of which the game is being played. You can't tell me the way the likes of Ronaldinho played at Barcelona, the way the likes of Zinedine Zidane, the way they played, the flair. You know, you can't tell me you can see that now.
I disagree. If you look at Jeremy Doku, who is in his current team, still plays with flair.
Do you know that the so-called Jeremy Doku you are talking about is a bench warmer now?
He's a bench warmer does not mean that he doesn't play with flair
But do you know that is this so-called Jeremy Doku that you are talking about? Yes. And I'm sure, well, don't let me use the word I'm sure. Plus or minus, maybe because he's not playing to instruction. Apart from form.
Well, that's the thing about the game at the end of the day. The game evolves.
Let me know when you make your point so I can come in.
The game evolves. This thing about restriction or no restriction, there was a time that Thierry Henry gave an analysis of how Guardiola wanted him to play, and of course he didn't play to instruction of Guardiola. He moved to another position, and Guardiola removed him from the game because of this. Oh, you are restricting players.
Exactly, that's the point. That's the point.
Because football is evolving.
Imagine
you can't say that we are expecting.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree that. Of course, everything.
You have to hold the ball. Holding on to the ball is not just holding on to the ball. It's because number one, you don't want to lose position, and number two, you want to create more and more chances. You want to.
Do you think that
your position from having chances against you?
I call tiki-taka playing middleman. Pass me, I pass you, pass me, I pass you.
No, it is creativity. Even this tiki-taka is creativity. It is genius to play in a low block because you are creating something out of nothing. You are creating space where there is no space. So that, of course, is playing with freedom, playing with genius.
In my own view, I don't think Pep Guardiola can be successful with an average team. If you look at let's forget the likes of Jose Mourinho, Arsene Wenger, or Sir Alex Ferguson. If you look at Unai Emery, we call Unai Emery today, as of today, the chairman, the master of the Europa League. I think, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, he won 2 Europa Leagues, or do they call it Europa Cup or Europa League, with Sevilla. Yes. He won another one with Villarreal. Yes. And I think he won 4. Is it 3? He won 3. He was in the final with Arsenal. Yes. That's 4 finals. Yes. Do you think a Guardiola will coach that Sevilla team with the same amount of resources? Pep Guardiola is a coach. Man City just this season, just recently concluded season, 2024-2025 season. I don't believe Rodri ruined their season. I believe maybe it was fatigue or tactical, because I don't believe one player will get injured. Rodri is not a guaranteed 100 goals, although he's the spine of that team. But I strongly disagree that it's because of Rodri that if it was Rodri, he could have easily replaced Rodri in January. Pep Guardiola ran to the transfer market to spend almost 200 million euros. Tell me any coach in the modern day football or the olden days football that will spend such amount of money in January. And this so-called Pep Guardiola now, in this summer, I think, if I'm correct, I think he has already signed another 3. And he's still signing. So I don't think Guardiola can be successful on the line with big budget team. Aston Villa will not sign this kind of signing. 7, even Arsenal. Look at what happened to Arteta in this season. Arsenal had a crisis. We were all abusing Arteta. But one way or the other, and we are aware that the board did not support Arsenal. Even somebody that is selling food by the road is aware that Arsenal needed a striker in January. Without a striker, Arteta managed, without a single signing in January, Arteta pushed that team to the semi-final of against the eventual winners of this competition, PSG, and Arsenal still maintain the second on the table. Do you think if Arteta or any other coach had these resources, do you think they won't do more than Guardiola? That's one. Before you make your point again, the other one is when Guardiola came to Man City in 2016, his first season, he was very vocal. Joe Hart, you cannot keep for me. That's England #1. I don't think any coach has that power to do that kind of thing. Why? I don't dispute. I don't have a problem with whoever you sign. That's the coach cup of tea. At the end of the day, it's the one that leaves the job or gets fired. But you dismissed Joe Hart. You brought in a Claudio Bravo in your first season. He signed in Nolito, Stones. I think he did some other signing that I can't remember. Fast forward, second season. Do you know that Guardiola changed his entire fullbacks or defense line? He brought in Mendy. He brought in. Let me tell you the players he sold. Bakary Sagna, Gael Clichy, Zabaleta. Tell me any coach that has the financial might to do that. That same season, he said, Claudio Bravo, you are not good enough. He brought in Ederson. Do you think any coach in today's world can match that? Toe to toe. That's why I'm saying I don't think that he's a very good coach. In fact, he's the best coach for me. Although I'm not his fan, I prefer Jose Mourinho. Look at Antonio Conte. Look at how he structures his team. Any team he has ever managed. Look at Antonio Conte came to Chelsea. Look at what he did. Within one season, he won the Premier League. And is it the FA Cup or Carling Cup? How much did he spend?
But we can also look at the fact that argument is flawed. After Antonio Conte's first season, we can see that after winning the league in 2017, we can see that he had a fallout with his players the next season. And in fact, Chelsea were fifth or so by the end of that season. If I can remember, by the end of 17-18 season. Unlike Antonio Conte, Pep Guardiola has been with Man City since 2016. That speaks of his longevity. That speaks of his ability to not just spend, but to also invest in these players. Now, you can say, oh, he spent £200 million. I want to come to that argument that he spent £200 million in January. And now, he's not signed 3 players again. He signed 4 players in January. He signed 4 players as of now.
That's
this
8
summer.
in a calendar year.
In less than 1
And
year.
the argument is that... And you're telling me he can manage
that still speaks of Guardiola's vision and his foresight. His foresight to be able to... He's seen that this team is transitioning from old players. Look at... The rumors are John Stones, Ake, and the like, they will be phased out very soon. Most of these players are in their 30 plus. Now, Guardiola is already planning for the future. He signed Kusanov, 21-year-old defender. He has signed Cheque already, who would also play alongside Tijani Reinders in the midfield. So we can see that instead of, oh, you say he's spending big. Liverpool signed Florian Wirtz for £150 million. The starting amount that he's signing, is £150 million.
Just hold on.
With
No,
£180 million.
I need to come in there.
Guardiola has signed only 4 players. Has signed 4 players.
Just hold
like spending,
just hold on.
Using one money to sign only 1 player.
Just hold on.
Now who spends more?
Okay. You mentioned Liverpool's coach, Slot. Last season, how much did Arne Slot spend to win the league?
Well, he signed
I said how much?
Juventus player, and he got a few which was even free anyway.
He did not spend up to 100 million.
He did not spend.
That's what I'm telling you.
Really spend.
The squad that Pep Guardiola took over in 2013, right? I just won the Champions League. I just won the Bundesliga. I just won. Is it the German Cup? Just hold on. Let me make my point. Yes. Right? That squad had Arjen Robben, Frank Ribery at the peak of their careers. Like, even at that point, there was a campaign for Ribery to win the Ballon d'Or, which we all know for one reason or the other. I'm not going to say the guy that won it did not deserve it. That's not my business. But he had Philip Lahm, the big boys, the big boys of this world. Look at Manuel Neuer. This is where, and prior to Bayern winning that Champions League, the previous season, they got to the final, which they lost to Chelsea. That was the team Guardiola took over. And mind you, in the 2010, also, Bayern Munich lost to Inter Milan. That means within the space of 3 years or 4 years, no matter however you want to call it, that team played in the Champions League 3 times. Right? Guardiola took over that team. He could not win the Champions League. Sorry, that's why I said I need 5 minutes. He brought in Lewandowski, Arturo Vidal, Javi Martinez, Mario Götze. I can continue. Do you know that there is a campaign in Germany then that Guardiola ruined their football? That he changed the German culture. From, we all know the way German team play. That aside, when he got to Manchester City, do you know that Pellegrini had won the league just 2 seasons before he came? He was second before he came. Roberto Mancini won the league as well, won the FA Cup before he came. And this team already had Raheem Sterling, De Bruyne, Yaya Toure, Vincent Kompany. I can go on and on. That's what I'm telling you. My position is not whether Pep Guardiola is a good coach or not. I'm telling you, I believe Pep Guardiola is the greatest coach of all time. Because how do you measure whether a coach is good? It's by statistics. He has this, he has that, he has this. But can he replicate this thing with an average team?
Yes.
I don't agree.
He can. Why can't he replicate it with an average team? We can see that even those average teams are copying his philosophy of football. Or you didn't even watch Burnley 2 seasons ago before they got relegated from the Premier League, even adopting his own style. I'm coming. Even Russell Martin, who got sacked at Southampton when Kompany was at Burnley. Let me first start with Kompany. Kompany adopted this style of football that he had learned from Pep Guardiola, and he used it to win 100 points in the championship. It had never happened. If we say that he's not a good manager, why are the smaller teams copying him? We can see that even though it doesn't come with a lot of success, because sometimes the style of play needs to match the players that would be able to play that style of play. Doesn't mean that if a Guardiola goes to a Southampton, he will not improve the players. And I can bet you he may not win the league, but of course you will see the difference. You will see the vast difference. So before we say that Guardiola just signs players, we can see that he doesn't just sign players. He signs players for the vision and the position that he wants them to play, and the style of play and the philosophy which he sees that they can match.
Okay, so in Man City, right? Just like I said, Guardiola had a problem. The same way Arteta had a problem. One, had the support of his board. Spent plus or minus 200 million and still came fourth and could not even win the FA Cup. Right? Despite, that's what I'm telling you. This guy gets, every club he goes to, he gets 100% or nothing support. That's the deal on the table. Is either I have my way or I go. That's why I'm telling you that how many coaches in today's football, that's why you see the likes of Thomas Tuchel, Antonio Conte, that's why Jose Mourinho, that's why you say they fell out with their board. Of course, because what I needed at that moment was not provided. And do you think coaches are not jealous of themselves? That's why I told you. And Slot, you said he spent 150 million. He has not even spent. He's going to spend because Vit is not at Liverpool yet, but it's assumed or it's presumed that he's coming. That guy won the league last season without having to spend plus or minus 100 million. Arsene Wenger in Arsenal. Arsenal had a crisis after we moved to Emirates. We needed to balance the book. I'm saying we because I'm an Arsenal fan. Because we needed to balance the book. That's when Arsenal practically turned to a selling club. At some point, some even call us Manchester City's academy. Because Guy Clichy, Bakary Sagna, Samir Nasri, Emmanuel Adebayo, Kolo Toure, etc. all left Arsenal for City. Arsene Wenger managed that team. I'm saying Arsene Wenger does not have vision. With little or nothing. Arsene Wenger will go and sign
But that's
Wait
why
now.
Wenger did not win the league he did not win any trophy for 8
That is
seasons.
what I'm telling you.
That is why
I
if
agree.
he's at a big club, he will need to deliver
I'm
trophies.
not disputing you.
He will need to
That
deliver
is what I'm
trophies.
telling you. That do you think Pep Guardiola, with that little or nothing resources, will be successful?
Yes, he will be
So
successful.
I think at this point, the analyst, in 30 seconds to 1 minute, make a conclusion.
I would say that Pep Guardiola is not overrated. He signs players, he signs them with big money, and he makes sure that he justifies the money by which he spends for those players. We can see that Sterling, Mahrez, players that he signed for big money, they were very useful and they had big outputs at Manchester City and even other clubs where he signed big money players. We can see that he invested in those players and he used them wisely. Aside a few players which we cannot say that they are the exception, like even Jack Grealish still won the Champions League with him. People will accuse him of spending 100 million on Jack Grealish, but
People
we can see
you?
that very many people.
Are you not
me,
part of those people?
I'm not part of those people.
Okay.
We can see that to a good extent, Jack Grealish still had good output, especially at the season when they won the Champions League and when they won the treble. So people will accuse him of spending big money, but at the end of the day, he's delivering. He's giving them trophies. What else again? He speaks for himself.
Okay, so I think at this point, we have to leave it for our audience, because this topic, I'm sure, we will be receiving a lot of comments. Don't let me use the word I'm sure, because definitely we will have a lot of people pro Guardiola on the same side on mine. So I think it's best we leave them for our audience to be the judge. Thank you very much, the analyst. This has been a very, very interesting topic.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here.
This has been a well-heated debate, both against and for the topic. I'll leave this for our viewers to be the judge. Whether you think Pep Guardiola would have been successful with an average team or you disagree. Don't forget to follow Honourable Football Diaries, the football podcast where banter meets bold take and no position is offside. We are on all social media platforms. Like, subscribe, and follow us on all our platforms to enjoy more exciting topics, heated debate, banter, and argument. Thank you for watching, and God bless you all. See you next week.